Hello, this is Griff. I wasn't ready for the camera to come on. Oh my goodness. This is Griff and I'm in Humboldt Redwoods State Park. And it's a very windy day. I've had to bail on a few programs recently because of branches falling, widowmakers falling out of the trees. Something you gotta be aware of in the redwoods. So hopefully I don't get impaled while I'm talking to you guys, because I'm thinking I picked a good spot right here in between the trees. We'll see. But anyways, I'm gonna talk to you guys about how all plants aren't created equal, and how the difference between a great plant and a not great plant is bite marks. Okay, bite marks reveals how cool a plant is. You're like, bite marks, Griff, this sounds ridiculous. Well, it is kind of ridiculous, but not in the way that you think. It's ridiculous that we all don't know this. I'm going to switch my positions here because I think I'm seeing some sun glare there. Is this better? I think this is better. All right, so now the sun is on my face. So anyways, everybody loves to have plants, beautiful roses, and we're kind of like tripping out whenever we have bite marks on our plants because we are thinking that shows that we're not good gardeners. But the problem is that we've been thinking about plants in terms of aesthetics only, how they look. Okay, we don't want to judge people based on how they look. We want to judge people based on how they connect with others, what good they're doing for the community. And I'm challenging you to start thinking about plants in the same way. We should start planting plants because of what they could do for their ecological neighbors, okay, for the insects and the wildlife. All right, so let's just take roses, for example. This is one of the many ornamental non-native roses. Okay, beautiful. Look at that. They're so pretty. Okay, but you know what? They're beautiful and selfish because they're not really doing anything for anyone else besides us. Plant breeders kind of forced evolution on these plants to become survival of the most beautiful. But they don't have hardly any value for pollinators because there's so many petals that pollinators can't get into their much reduced stamens. The stamens are the sexual organ that creates pollen. And they usually don't have very many stamens because plant breeders have bred those stamens to become petals. So not only can you not get in there, if you do as a bee, and we have 1,400 native bees in California, like 5,000 in the United States. Like, United States is beelicious. Like, if we were known for anything, it'd be because of all of our native bees. Native bees can be tiny little green things, or they could be big, giant, black and yellow bumblebees, okay, or carpenter bees or something like that. But they can't use this plant because they can't get to the pollen. So this plant might as well be plastic, okay? And then we've all been trained, those of you who do roses, and when you see a few little bites on your roses, you freak out. Oh my God. And you go in there and you hook up your concoction of pesticides and you go out there and you do chemical warfare on the plants just to kill off a few aphids. But there's a lot of civilian casualties in this. You're killing all the butterflies and the moths, the pollinators, the bugs that we desperately need. I'm gonna move out of the sun again here. This is the dance with the sun moving here. Let's see. All right. So this is the native rose, the non-native rose. Now you can still plant these. I'm not saying to pull all these out, but when one dies, you might want to replace it with a native plant that evolved in your area, co-evolved in cooperation with native pollinators and other animals. You know, another thing about these fancy roses is a lot of them don't make rose hips anymore, which are super high in vitamins and seeds, and become rose hips, become the fruit, that's the fruit of the rose, during when a lot of songbirds are starting to migrate and they need some vitamins, and they need some food, and these aren't providing it, or they're providing giant ones that birds can't get into their mouths, okay? So you don't have to pull these out. I get it. I get how beautiful these are. It's part of our culture. This is the native rose. And you're like, that doesn't have as many petals. No, but look at all the stamens, and those are all full of pollen. Roses, native and non-native, don't make very much nectar. Or these probably don't make any nectar at all. But the bees, and especially native bees and pollinators, visit it for its pollen, okay? Because there's so much here. And this is what all roses used to look like before humans forced evolution on them to look like this, okay? So roses, the native rose, they're smaller, and you could plant a bunch of these around your big roses, and it would actually help make these pop. Okay, because we'd be surrounded by the little baby roses. And then the pollinators would come here. These would make rose hips, and so the birds can come here. And you can help, especially if you live in a huge metropolis like the Bay Area or LA, where birds are migrating over you at night and then they need to come down and land someplace, and there's hardly any water there, so you can put a little bird bath or some little water feature in your yard, and then you can plant some natives, and the natives will have insects on them and they'll have fruit at the right time. A lot of non-native plants don't have, they might as well be plastic, all right? And I'll get into that in just a minute. You know, when people come to the park, and I talk to people all the time in the park. If you ever see me in the park, you want to come talk to me? Come talk to me. And if you're like, I don't know what to talk to Griff about, ask me about nature, ask me about the park, ask me about trails, tell me about what you saw, help you figure it out and get more curious. But when people look at imagine someone came here and they're like, we came here and we got some binoculars and we looked up in this tree and we got way up there and we could see the leaves and there was bite marks in them, so we put our binoculars away and went home. No one's ever said that. No one ever came back from Yosemite and said, look at all these pictures. Aren't they wonderful? And someone's like, no, they're not, because there's bite marks all over the plants. Oh my gosh, they should spray something out there. No one ever said that, okay? You don't even notice the bite marks. And in fact, so the son and me are dancing right now. Let's dance. Come over here. All right. So, what was I talking about? Plants. Oh, so a lot of times the bite marks, what that means is native plants have been here a long time and have co-evolved with insects. So the insects, almost all plants are poisonous to something. And then some insects develop a resistance against that poison. So think of milkweed and monarchs, the most popular example. Monarchs have a poison that causes heart attacks for a lot of animals, but the milkweed does. Milkweed causes heart attacks. But the monarch has evolved in a way to deal with that, okay? And so monarchs need milkweed. Well, that's not just monarchs. All butterflies can lay their eggs and eat like 5 or less plant families, okay? So very, very specific. People always think that insects are just eating every plant. That's not true, okay? Bugs are specialists, and they specialize on 1 or 2 genera or 1 or 2 plant families. Only the biggest generalists will go for like 5 families, all right? So like this guy right here, he likes cottonwoods and willows. This is a western tiger swirl butterfly. Western swallowtail butterfly. So tiger swallowtail, beautiful. And so when you see this and it's flying over and you have this like cottonwood with a big bite mark out of it, you can look at this butterfly and go, did you bite this cottonwood? And the chances are it did, because those bite marks were caterpillars, and caterpillars are very important for songbirds because songbird parents feed their babies mostly caterpillars because caterpillars are soft, like sausages. Do you want to feed your baby a sausage, a caterpillar sausage, or a spiny roach? I'll let you think about that. I think you all know the answer. This is our native bee. The native bees have also co-evolved with these plants, the native plants. And the flower shapes sometimes are perfectly designed and evolved with the shape of the native bees' bodies, okay? So native plants are super important. If you wanted to help nature and have a place where you have soul, like Humboldt Redwoods State Park. We have soul here because we got butterflies, we got animals, we got all these things. And the reason why is because we have native plants. They're the foundation for the bugs. People understand that bugs need plants and birds and reptiles and everything else need bugs. But people think that all plants help bugs, and that's not true. You have to plant the plants, the native plants to your area the bugs evolved with. And to find out what those are, you can go to Native Plant Finder and put in your zip code, and it will tell you. If you live in California, use calscape.org, and it'll even let you know where the native plant nurseries are so that you can get plants that actually help. And it doesn't matter if you don't have a yard. You can plant these at school. You can talk your school into it, your place of worship, your workplace. If you have a balcony or a porch, you can put 3 or 4 native plants out there, and it'll probably benefit somebody, some native insect, some bird. And if you only have room for 1 tree, plant an oak tree, okay? Plant an oak tree. They support more wildlife, more butterflies, more moss than any other plant, okay? So if you live in a place where oak trees are native, plant an oak tree, okay? And there's small oak trees and there's big oak trees, and they grow slow at the beginning, but then they take off because oak trees sink their roots first. So don't get discouraged, all right? So that's something you can do. A lot of people come out here to the park and they want to capture the magic of this biodiversity, variety of life. That's what biodiversity is. And you can. It starts with native plants. It doesn't matter where you're at, all right? So let me see if there's anything else I need to cover. Oh yeah. So here's another thing, the difference between the plants at your house and the plants at Humboldt Redwoods State Park. If you download this free app, this is probably in mirror form, let me see here. If you download this free app, iNaturalist, it's, they have it on iPhone and Android. You can take pictures and upload them, and you could tell, and it will tell you, it will help identify what kind of plants are in your yard. And chances are all of the plants in your yard are either from Europe or Asia, and they won't have bite marks in them. Bite marks are a sign of good, okay, not bad. And if they do have bite marks, it's probably from an insect that came over here and is now an invasive species like Japanese beetle or something. But if you plant natives, you'll get the native insects, and you'll be doing something. You don't have to go out and pull all your plants right now to have like a park-like experience in your yard. But every time one of your ornamental plants dies, you can plant natives. Also, you can reduce the size of your lawn. You can use your lawn as paths if you don't have little kids. You have little kids, keep your lawns thing, play outside. But if you don't have little kids, you can make your lawn smaller and just kind of use it as pathways to go by different native plants. And when you have native plants and you have these bite marks, try to figure out who's biting them, okay? See caterpillar, you can take a picture of that on Naturalist and load it up. And now you got stories to tell in your yard. So when people come over and they're like, where'd all your roses go? Say, oh no, I still have roses, but these roses have soul, okay? Please come to Humboldt Redwood Park and check out our bite marks because they're beautiful and we have biodiversity. And it's all here waiting for you to come hike and check it out. I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Happy Mother's Day on Mother's Day this Sunday. Make sure y'all thank your mamas. All right, bye.